welcome everybody to this awesome webinar. We're going to talk about how to gain market share during the spring home buying season. My name is Dave Savage. I am the Chief Innovation Officer of TrustEngine. I was the co-founder of Mortgage Coach. And guys, this is the headline, just to set the table. It's how to gain market share. Guys, this is a market share market. It's definitely not a low interest rate volume market. Like, we are having to go out there and be smarter than ever, compete with realtors, compete for a loan. There's never been more competition. The big banks are coming after it. And that's why we've got three incredible leaders. Melissa Wright is the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for American Pacific Mortgage. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming and committing this hour for everyone. We have Ben Miller, who is the CEO of SimpleNexus, top point of sale solution, great partner of us here at TrustEngine. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here with you guys.
So let's just kick things off with, how do you think this spring home buying season will be different than past? And for the most part, Melissa, I'm always going to start with you because you're the lender. I think most of the audience wants to hear what you think first, but and Ben and I will kind of give color around it. But what are your thoughts, Melissa?
Well, what I find unique, everyone knows this. I'm not going to say anything that's real aha, but the reality is we're dealing with reduced inventory and high interest rates, and those combination is what's kind of creating, limited buyers, I would say, or limited opportunities. I still think there are plenty of people that are moving and plenty of people that are building and buying new construction. I think there's still a lot of new construction going on. Like, the activities are still there, but that reality of, with the rates jumping back up again, and then also, people aren't moving their properties because they don't think people are buying. Like, there's a lot of just kind of, I don't know, like negative noise out there, I guess, just for things. So that's just creating a really interesting challenge for us. But I still think that there is plenty of ways to solution for that and help people, because people don't want to wait and do nothing. Like, even though that's the opportunity, I think we need to approach it as there are still buyers wanting to, like, not everybody wants to just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. It's like they want to move, they want to get a house, they want to sell their house, they want to relocate, they want, to buy investment properties. And I still think there's great opportunities out there with less competition. And so you can kind of get those properties that you want, but it's up to the lenders to get really crafty with solutions and helping those buyers kind of navigate this market. I think that's super critical to help lead with education and lead with solutioning for that. Help them understand it's not a short-term decision, it's a long-term, but mortgages will change out over time.
I love that you said we have to get more crafty. One of the takeaways, we need to help find problems and be solution providers, because the business isn't just coming in. Ben, what are your thoughts? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, well, and just let me pause and take a moment to say thank you again for everybody coming out. I appreciate your support. And Dave and Melissa, it's great to be with you. I really admire you guys and what you've done, and excited to be part of the solutions in the industry, and part of helping everyone out in a tough time, right? The concept that kind of comes to mind for me is exactly what Melissa's laid out in the scenarios with the rates, with the inventory, also with the fact that buyers are still out there. It's not that things have completely stopped. I think it's more so we're coming off, we're a year removed from a $4.5 trillion year, right? And then, last year that went to like a 2.2 maybe, or somewhere around there. So tremendous reduction in volumes. And then even coming into this year in Q1, we're seeing with, we had a little bit of hope when the rates came down a little bit, and you saw, activity immediately spike with some applications, and then that's trending back down, as rates come back up. And so this year is projected to be maybe 1.8 or 1.9. Now, you still have, in some instances, capacity that was serving a $4.5 trillion market So there's a lot of capacity in the system. And I bring that up. And we've seen, we've had a lot of friends leave the market in the industry. It's been very tough, right? Very hard to see some of our friends, leave the industry. But we see that there's still probably overcapacity, which makes this whole conversation, I think, so much more important. Because when you engage with a borrower that, there's loans out there to be had, right? There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people coming in, to the side on that deal. And how are you going to differentiate, right? How are you going to have that engagement that's a step above the next person that might be calling in that may not be leveraging the technology that you're going to see here, right? And so you need to be able to help your borrower get the value with working with you as that trusted advisor, because you can bring them the information that they need to make it through this transaction.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I'm glad that you brought up a key point in terms of just the data. I've been in mortgage now for 37 years, and my entire career, interest rates have gone down. When I did my first loan, it was 10.265%. And you made the point, Ben, that guys, rates went, in 2020, and it was a $4 trillion year, they were at 2, and in 2001, they were at 2 and 3. And so, we've never faced this. And realtors, here's the point I want to make, realtors have never faced a market where 63% of all mortgages start with 2% or 3%. And then, there's another 20% at 4. So what Melissa said, like, we need to get crafty. Guys, I think this is a new era where we need to stop calling them loan officers. We need to start calling them mortgage advisors, because they need to get crafty and they need to create solutions. Melissa, anything else you want to add to that before I go to the next question?
Well, I have lots of comments on that, especially about how loan officers differentiate, but maybe I'll let you wait so I don't take us off topic.
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking forward to that. Well, let's just talk about how are you preparing your loan officers for spring home buying season? Melissa, as the chief sales and marketing officer, what's your strategy there?
It's multifaceted. There's not one way to do it. So we have a lot of things. One, we're really encouraging loan officers to, now's your chance. Now's your chance. We've been talking about it for years and years. You have got to master your craft. You have got to master technology with the pieces that will help you be more human and do the activities that really matter. You have got to have your systems and your experience dialed in. And so many people still aren't. It's really surprising. So we go in and we monitor systems like SimpleNexus. We're big fans and users of SimpleNexus. We'll go in and look at how many people are using it for the different features within SimpleNexus. So then we'll go in and set a bar. And then I put my sales team on a goal for like the next 90 days to move the bar up. And so we do a lot of like directed communication and training and tactics for that group, trying to move them up. We do, so we have some things that way where we're trying to get our tools. We think this is the season where everything should get very streamlined, simplified, automated, don't take on too much, get really focused in on 90 days. So I look at this 2 ways. I look at what do we need to do as companies, business owners, and leaders of teams, departments, companies, whatever that is. And then what do loan officers need to do? And they're similar in strategy, but yet slightly different. And I just think both companies and loan officers have to get things really dialed in. We were so busy for so long. And then with the change of just the way the consumer and the worker changed. And then last year was kind of a shock. So what we're really doing is sprinting, doing 90-day sprints, really focusing on like mastering the craft, getting efficiencies dialed in, getting technology dialed in where it applies, and getting the human side really kind of a little bit more smarter and a little bit more strategic about where do we show up that really matters. And so when I talk with loan officers, there's strategies for them, but as business, man, we're really kind of honing in on all the things that we can do things faster, smarter, better, cheaper. We're cutting costs right and left. And so what are those things we can do? And then where are the critical points in the process where we really need to show up as humans and dial that in? And I think that generalization applies to both companies and loan officers for kind of how you run your business.
I love that. I've got a kind of a question after that, but I want to hear what Ben has to say first on that question. So Ben, why don't you take a run at that one?
Yeah, no, I really love what you mentioned there, Melissa. And I want everybody to know we're right there with you from a vendor standpoint, right? We're evaluating our own business to say, how do we increase the level of ROI that we're able to deliver? Or how do we improve what we're doing and not relying on, hey, this got us to here, now what's going to get us to there? Like we need to change, we need to be sharper, we need to adapt as well. It makes me think of this notion that there will be more attrition in the business, right? And who is it going to be? And it's going to be, in my mind, it's going to be that loan officer that just kind of sits around and thinks that, hey, well, I was able to do so well in 2020 doing this particular strategy. I didn't really study up on my tools. I didn't really leverage my technology as much as but it worked out for me, right? I made a bunch of money. It's going to be that person that has, that attitude of like, oh, if I just got to make it the next month, it'll work out. The people that are going to survive are those that are looking at, evaluating, how am I leveraging what I have? Do I have the right tools? How can I do something better? Improve? Can I sharpen the saw a little bit, right? Can I take it a step up? Because in a sense, it's a zero-sum game. There's not enough loans for everybody in this market. And so if you're not improving your craft, if you're not evaluating, how do you get better? You'll find yourself losing out on those loans, right? I don't want to just preach. I want everybody to know that we're right there with you, right? As an industry, everyone's looking to improve, and we're right there with you, knowing that we got to step up our game.
And I would just add too, if I may, it's more than how things were ran in 2020. I would say that it's also how things have been working for a long period of time. Like what we're finding is, we've done mortgages for 20 years and we've been doing them, or 10 years or whatever, kind of the same way. Our strategies have worked. Our practices have worked. Our experience has worked. And I feel like what's happening right now is a complete disruption of all of that. So you're having to think differently, show up differently, be a little bit more strategic and all those things.
So I was at a conference recently, and the session was called 10 Things You Must Do in 2023. And it was to an audience of executives. And by the way, all 10 things were amazing. Like the list was gold. But number 8 on the list was get serious about performance metrics. And what went through my head when I saw that is, you know what? It's number 1 on the list. Like if we can't measure, if we're not measuring the right things, we can't, how can we really dictate our strategy, and how can we make these decisions? And then I wrote down, I had a couple different conversations with people lately, and they referenced the movie Moneyball. And then I've been having that in my head, and I wrote down, it's time for Moneyball mortgage leadership. and I think there's a story to be said for executives and for loan officers. Like loan officers, some of you are calling on realtors that even if they like and trust you, they're not doing enough business to give you the business you need to achieve your goals. And then a lot of loan officers, they don't focus on the things like price exceptions. By the way, loan officers, to me, that is your sales fitness score. If you are giving up a lot of price exceptions, you're selling price, not advice. They're not studying conversion, like these metrics, conversion, profitability, making sure that your realtors are healthy. So Melissa, here's the question to you. When I say, I don't know, Moneyball mortgage leadership, what are some of those measurements that for spring home buying season, you think executives should be measuring, and loan officers? Like, hey, loan officers, you've got, I think it's probably about 70% of our audience is management leadership, but there's a number of originators that are tuning into us right now, or they're watching the video. What do you think are the measures to play, Moneyball Mortgage?
It's super interesting. So we had a branch manager roundtable recently where we brought them in, and we really wanted to, in a smaller setting, talk with them, get them to brainstorm. And I held the session on sales and marketing with a group of branch managers, and another leader did one on like branch health and branch like retention and things like that. And what surfaced in both of them was this level of accountability that they feel like is super critical right now with loan officers, keeping them on task of the activities that ultimately will get them the business, not just the business itself, and rewarding everything, and kind of like scorekeeping everything, and a contest for everything, because we've maybe a lot of people have set business plans based on just kind of what you're trying to achieve, instead of like a true 90-day sprint. And maybe that would be on something like implementing Mortgage Coach, right? That might be what it is. And so then that's a point that you get for every one of those that you do. And maybe it's creating videos and getting out on social with videos, and those are points. And maybe you're doing things with your realtors, but it was like, here's all the things that you should be doing that will help you get business, and rewarding and recognizing it. And I just found it really fascinating that of all the conversations we could have about being strategic in both of these roundtables, what ultimately surfaced was we kind of have to motivate our loan officers and reward them, and reward the tasks that we're trying to change them to. So when you say, how are we going to evolve as leaders? Well, I think we have got to make sure we know how to set good business plans. We know how to do those effectively. We know how to train and teach our people to do it, and how to hold them accountable. And if you need a coach, go get a coach. If your loan officers need a coach and you don't want to do it, then get that for them. But I feel like it's so transitional of all the things you have to do, and how you have to show up differently, and the things you need to learn and master your craft, and turn on technology, and work on your brand, and work on video. There's like all of these lanes, but you've got to have a plan, and you've got to have disciplines on your plan. And that's what I think has always kind of been missing, is it sounds good and everyone buys into it, but no one knows how to keep on task.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And by the way, guys, I started my whole Moneyball Mortgage conversation with a post on LinkedIn today, so check that out. I also want to remind y'all, guys, at TrustEngine, we are very serious about measurement. We are an ROI first organization. For those of you on here that are customers of ours, this is a branch manager mobile scorecard. So, if every branch manager can log in, and if a goal is to make sure your loan officers are having a value conversation at the point of sale using Mortgage Coach, you can log in and see, who's doing it. And Melissa is the chief sales and marketing officer. She can log in, and we update it daily. But I really want to push everyone watching this to, celebrate beyond just the leaderboard. How many loans do they close? What is their production? Like who's the most profitable and who's the least profitable? Who is got the best conversion rate and the least conversion rate? Because loan officers are competitive, and the more you gamify it, the more successful you'll be. And amen to that. Tim Rowan out of NorCal, he said, "Inspect what you expect." Great quote. Thank you for the reminder there. Ben, anything else you want to add to this before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, no, a real quick thing that comes to mind is, totally building on what Melissa was saying there about breaking it down, breaking the tasks down. You hear the term dial in, right? We have this Carpaccio training, we call it here. It's like, take that ultimate goal and break it down into the smaller tasks that will deliver those results. Because one thing that happens in an environment like this is you can just feel so overwhelmed. You can get paralyzed by just feeling like this is just too daunting. I don't know what to do. I don't know how in the world I'm going to get to be. I want to be $100 million producer. And it just looks impossible after January and February. I'm not going to be able to get there. break it down, trust the process, trust the goal, break it down, and be able to say, hey, you know what, I can take that first step. I know I need to make so many calls or outreach to realtors or past clients or whatever it may be. You have all of these things that, designated, or what are going to be the steps to success. And like Melissa said, give yourself opportunities to have those celebrations, to have those wins, because there's plenty of stress. There's plenty of bad news out there, right? We don't need to talk about that. It's all over the place, right? But let's give ourselves reasons to win and build that positive energy that can carry us through and help us power through, tough times, which as we take those steps ultimately results in achieving those goals that we want to set out.
So this next question, it talks about sales and marketing. And I think it's really special that we have Melissa on this call because, I have been studying the loan officers that are killing it in this market. And selling is always an important pillar to success. But I think this market, like marketing, is super important, that you're able to scale your message. You have a story as a loan officer. You're seeing more top producers that are not only really skilled salespeople, but they're really skilled at building a brand and scaling with marketing. So, and I think this market is exposing that, that if you aren't well balanced with this sales and marketing approach, it doesn't work. And I don't think it's going to work as well as we go forward. So, Melissa, starting with you, what are the main pillars of your marketing and sales plan?
Well, of course, you got to, all of these feed into a plan. So really passionate. I'm glad we're all aligned. This does not work if you do not have this all written into your plan, given into sprints that you're going to focus on. So with that underlying foundation, then I would say you have to have brand management. You can call it personal brand, you can call it marketing, but I would just call it your brand management. You have got to have that dialed in. Who are you? Do you like how you're seen and found online? Do you have resources that you can send to people? I'll give you an example. So let's say that you're getting a lot of leads from your real estate agents. Well, maybe they're not ready to buy. They're scared at the rate of 7%, whatever. What do you have to send them to keep them incubated with you? Do you have short little videos you can send them? They want to know more. They want to be educated, but sometimes it isn't just an email campaign, but have you spent the time to build out your brand, show your expertise? So do you have a library of short little videos that if they ask you something on that, you can send to them and have them look? Do you have a robust site or website or a social platform where they can find you? So I always am like, what is your brand? And do you have that dialed in? And if not, stop putting it off, get it done, start somewhere. But you've got to have videos, and you got to have social, and you got to have your brand and your reviews, and you got to have all that stuff feeds into. And I just can't reiterate that enough of how critical that is. And then you can convert your brand into revenue, but you've got to have a brand management. Next, I would say your experience. You have that is so critical. And I look at experience two ways. There's some technology experience. What does the customer want and expect? Remember and think about yourself. How do you want to engage with customers, with vendors, with experience, places you choose for services or products? That's also what they expect of you. So always think through that. Are you delivering that? Are you serving up technology that they want? Are you kind of doing things old school? Today's consumer wants all that stuff. So if you're not doing a digitized, wonderful mobile experience up front, I love the way the application works in SimpleNexus. It's so good, so much better than the other platforms. It's just more engaging, and there's different ways you can do it. It doesn't all have to be through mobile. It can be web. I love the visual sales presentations. But what else beyond that? When you work on your brand, you're going to work on what's your differentiators, and are those actually felt throughout the experience with you? And a lot of people say, hey, I'm this way, but you can't find it. You don't really see it, or where does that surface? So really honing in on that experience. And then with your systems, your workflow, how you do it. Are you automating where it makes sense, delegating where it makes sense? So you show up where you need to show up to really go get the business. And so there's everything from attracting to retaining, and that from your client base to your new leads to your realtors, like all that feeds in, but it's not one way. You've got to work all those plans, but those are kind of the key. Now there's subsets of those, but I always like to kind of start with foundation, because so many people don't have it. I look, I audit, I teach on, it's still, they're just not doing it.
So Ben, before I bring this to you, I want to, one, cover a script, because I think it's super important that, first of all, it's not just your marketing, it's what you say at the point of sale. And this is a great example of a mortgage advisor, someone that is going to kill it in the future, where they're not just, hey, I close loans on time and I have great interest rates. They're talking about how their advice helps build wealth with real estate by helping the family make smarter decisions. My team is going to help proactively coach you over time to ensure that you always have the best loan. And Melissa, you guys use Sales Boomerang to monitor the database. I mean, there's obvious value for the lender and the loan officer there to be able to predict the right loan at the right time. But guys, there's value for the consumer when you can say, hey, consumer, I got you. I'm managing your mortgage versus, and I'm not saying this is a script that you should go train to all your loan officers. I mean, something like this, you've got to get, like, we've got to turn loan officers into mortgage advisors. And here at TrustEngine, that means mortgage coach. We want to turn loan officers into mortgage coaches that can say this. And then they can literally, to a consumer, is it important you have good long-term strategic advice? Or are you just looking for the short-term cheapest rate? And by the way, it's not like if I know a consumer wants the short-term cheapest rate, I can have that conversation, or maybe not. But at least you're able to, you step into this. So Melissa, any comments to that?
Yeah, yes. I was thinking of a conversation I had with one of our top loan officers, just crushing it and doing great. And he said, even though he's still moving, trying to catch up from the gap, but he's still very impressive numbers. He said even he recently changed the way he's scripting and talking with his customers to making sure they know the entire experience they're going to get with him, not just during the transaction, or not just upfront educating, but post. He said, I changed the way on my leads. He does a lot of homebuyer seminars and workshops. I explain everything you get from me. So it's not just about helping you get into that home, but also everything I'm going to stay in the picture in your life, continuously adding value. And he said, and when I just moved that into my leads so I could differentiate. So we're not always talking about finance. We're not always talking about educating for all things mortgage, but here's all the services I'm going to provide for you. Indefinite, kind of approach. He said that was a step up in the differentiator of keeping those leads still with me while they were shopping. And it's kind of what you were talking about, in that it has to be beyond just talking about the mortgage.
It has to be. So Ben, anything you want to add to this question or what's been said so far?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind is the data from polling buyers still comes back and reiterates the point that people yearn for that advice. They want that advice. They want that relationship. It's for most people the largest financial transaction they'll ever do. And they want someone who can help them feel comfortable and who they can have confidence in, right? And that can be a differentiating factor in where they go do their business. So I love that notion of examining your own delivery in talk track to say, do I really provide that? And if I am providing that, am I effectively communicating that? When I think about SimpleNexus, and we have a tremendous part of the technology for engagement prior to even applying for the loan, especially through mobile, to get your mobile app out there to realtors who can distribute it to others, or whatever referral partner it may be. We had a LO that their best referral partner was a divorce attorney. Another one that their best referral partner was a bartender, right? That would put their QR code to scan and get the app, on the coasters or whatever, right? And so we have infrastructure to help you distribute your brand and engage with people more easily, but without, like what Melissa was saying, without you creating the content and creating the strategy, creating the brand to fill into that infrastructure, it's just empty, and I remember taking a phone call from an LO one time that said, hey, I got your app and I don't see any leads, it's broken. And I'm like checking the technology and saying, oh man, everything looks like it's hooked up correctly. Here, let me test it right now. And I did a test download and it worked to connect it to him. And I was like, I don't understand, sir. And I was like, well, can you tell me what you're doing? And he's like, well, I set it up and then I just sat and waited, and then I don't see any leads come in. I'm like, well, I don't think it works that way. I think you actually need to like engage with people and go connect with a realtor and give it to that realtor and talk about what you can do for them. And this is just going to facilitate that, referral coming back to you, make it way easier and have a platform that everyone can be connected with on the loan, and there's transparency and communication, and it's going to be very easy, but you have to do your part, right? You can't just buy the technology, stick it on a shelf and sit back and wait for the leads to come in. That's just not who we are. There may be other technologies that do that or whatnot, but anyhow, really appreciate that, what you're saying, Melissa, of like examining your talk track, examining the your role, and then effectively communicating that and leverage the technologies to get that out there.
And I liked when you said evaluating if you are doing those things, because it's one thing to come up with a script, but really it boils down to, are you even doing that? Like, what really is setting you apart? This gentleman in particular was doing that. And so he wanted to talk about some of the other value, like what tools are you using? Are you explaining those up front, or are you just kind of educating? I always tell loan officers as well, like, please get rid of the mortgage talk. I mean, there's still so much of that, and they just don't know. Perfect example would be just the latest change with FHA, lowering down the
mortgages,
the MIP. Yeah. Like, if you say that, like, no consumer knows what you're even talking about. And I just saw buckets of that all over social, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to tune out. So when you work on your brand, part of that is really coming in as we keep referencing, this advisor or this solution provider, this someone who you can connect with and not create this distance. So that is always kind of embedded in there. But I love what you were saying, that, well, evaluate first if you're doing it.
Are you even doing it? Because you may think in your head, oh, I'm great at this, but sometimes it takes like having a friend to say, hey, can you like shadow one of my phone calls or something, right? And getting the feedback, because we have our own blind spots. By definition, we're not aware of what is or isn't happening in that blind spot, right? And so, yeah, ask a buddy, say, hey, can you help me? Can you, do that presentation in the mirror, record yourself, and then you can evaluate it yourself, and just see, like, am I really doing the things that I think I'm doing?
So guys, this reminded me of an interview I did with Scott Brown. He's the author of The Innovator's Ultimatum. Highly recommend it. He was the chief futurist for Intel, pretty smart guy. And recently he has been on assignment with DeepMind, which is a Google AI platform. And I had talked to him last week. And when I originally interviewed him, I told him, hey, my customers are, retail, local lenders and loan officers. And what advice do you have for them? And he said, WACD, and he kind of said it. I was like, okay, what does WACD mean? He goes, well, it's the same thing I've been telling the specialty retail industry for years. And the specialty retailers that have taken my advice, their stock is up and they're thriving. And the specialty retailers who haven't, their stock is down or they're out of business. And that is WACD is what Amazon can't do. And he's like, And it's what Amazon can do. And he used Nordstrom as an example that, hey, when there's a lot of technology going on there. Like if you walk into a Nordstrom's and they don't have what you want on stock, anyone in that store can go to a piece of technology and go, oh, I've got it in back. Or, oh, you can drive 7 miles this way or 8 miles that way and get it. Or I can click a button and send it to you. Like there's a lot of technology going on to do that. And guys, if you want to gain market share this spring home buying season, you need to WACD your business. And I'm going to show a perfect example of this. Guys, this is an integration that I couldn't be more proud of as an innovator in the mortgage space. And guys, this is how you optimize spring home buying. Like if you want to have an optimized spring home buying pre-approval experience, this is what it looks like, powered by a combination of TrustEngine and SimpleNexus. The consumer is doing the pre-approval, could be their desktop, their mobile device, and advice is integrated, mortgage coach is integrated. And guys, there's a lot of technology going on here. You could pull pricing from Optimal Blue. You could pull pricing from Smart Fees. You could have templates set up. And so there's a lot of tech going on, MI information, so that you can do more than deliver price. Like loan officers deliver price, mortgage advisors deliver advice, and they use technology to do it. Like they can literally, like whatever the loan officer wants that consumer to see, the borrower is seeing it. Guys, this is the future of lending in 2025. But the thing is, guys, it's here today. Like the biggest challenge is not just technology. Like technologists, like TrustEngine and the team that we have here, SimpleNexus, Ben and his team, like we have created amazing technology, but it doesn't give you a competitive advantage unless you use it at an enterprise level, unless you like institutionalize these things. So Melissa, first of all, and I'm going to ask you 2 parts. You can, kind of answer it either one, but any thoughts on that? And then also, how do you convince your loan officers to change their routines and start using technology like this that's important? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I love everything about that. I love Mortgage Coach and SimpleNexus, and seeing it together is so cool. I love that. It makes all the difference when you say what Amazon can't do, and then when you flipped it to can do, some of that stuff is why we keep going back to Amazon. They do a lot of amazing things with the experience and technology, and so I love kind of that vision of using it that way. So I'm all in. I'm a fan. I think everyone should use it. How do you get loan officers to adopt? Okay, that is the golden question, and something that by no means do we have this dialed in, but it's kind of a layering effect. So any opportunity I can to spotlight loan officers or interview loan officers or have them be on stage or whatever talking, so it's from someone doing the role just like them day in and day out, helps. That's one thing, right? Another thing I'd mentioned earlier, we really study our metrics and look at where we're going, and then we analyze where the gaps are. And then I have a team of people working specifically with those people not adopting. So we'll go out and we'll do live trainings. We'll go do one-on-one trainings. We'll hold monthly trainings, like whatever it takes. But if you just kind of set it and forget it, then they can only do it a little bit. So I have some of my team that super cool, where we pull our numbers and then we know, like right now we're looking at how many legacy branches been here a long time have not adopted SimpleNexus. Like we're going into that because our adoption numbers are okay, but I want to look at like my legacy, like those that have been here a long time. Every new branch, seems like all of those, they get it from the beginning and they're all in. But what if you've been here like over 10 years or over 5 years? What does that look like? So we're kind of honing in on that. So there's that, there's the monthly, it's talking about it, it's creating the fabric. So we get videos, we do spotlights, we do a Tech Talk channel, we do an 8 p.m. live, we do events. So much, like you just can't do enough of it. It has to just be part of who you are as a company. It's seen and felt everywhere. And then you put expectations in, like this is kind of what we expect to use. And then we'll call you out on it if you're not using it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That's why for more than a decade, I've interviewed loan officers for our Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, is that, hearing me as a technologist, as Mr. Mortgage Coach say, it's one thing, but when I'm interviewing people from different cities and different micro markets throughout the country, different personalities, that's what moves the needle. So I hope everybody is taking note on that, because you guys do a great job. I mean, you're super smart in how you pick your technology partners. I guess that's easy to say because you have
Two of them on the call.
SimpleNexus. So that is smart, but you're super smart with how you invest in teaching and training, and we love working with you. Ben, anything you want to call out there or answer that question?
No, it's great. APM does such a tremendous job with supporting the loan officers, through coaching, through following the metrics. I really like that aspect of it. It's like, we call them information radiators, right? Shining a light on what's happening in the business, what's happening with, any one loan officer by exposing the data. And so we partner, to say, hey, what metrics do you want us to be able to follow and help, expose to you guys, that in turn you can, show others on how they're doing. And that partnership with that vendor is to say, like Melissa, I need to serve her, right? I need to say, hey, how can I be better? What can I do to make your job easier? And that partnership is really important. And then, just continuing to hammer it home, right? There's you never arrive at perfection. It's a lifelong goal and journey, right? And staying on top of it, revisiting it and saying, hey, did we get everyone to this level? And then I love what you said, Melissa, about, okay, now we're here. Let's take it a year. Let's bump it up. Let's keep going. And because like, that's with any aspect of life. Anytime you just, feel like, oh, I've made it, I've arrived, that's when you're going backwards, either going forward or backwards, so stay on it.
Yes.
And I also think with technology, it's so important that our loan officers, our mortgage advisors, that they are like in the systems. I think for a while there, they kind of thought they were just gonna, like, it was gonna be a lot of set it and forget it. It was gonna be a lot of like, oh, this is cool and easier for me. And that's where some of the gaps come in, is they're not actually taking the time. They need to master those tools themselves. I don't need to know them inside and out. They need to know them inside and out. And a lot of times they don't. They kind of cheat, make it a simple path to utilization. And those that really roll up their sleeves and want to know it and know it for themselves, like a lot of people delegate that out to team members. And I just find like, you got to know the stuff that really impacts your business. And if it impacts your business, it's always got to start with the customer. So what really did that work for the customer? Did it not? Are you analyzing and course correcting, or you just kind of, it is what it is? Like, you've got to be all in studying and learning and knowing this stuff and finding you got to make time to do it. And you have time. Everyone's got time to do it. So
absolutely. So Julie, WACD stands for what Amazon cannot do and can do. And I'll put a link in the follow-up to this. And if you're watching this in our Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, I'll put a link to that interview where you can hear it from an innovator himself. And then, yes, we do integrate with Smart Fees. So Mortgage Coach absolutely integrates. It's pretty amazing. So let's run through this perfect optimized spring home buying. So first of all, it's how you position yourself at the point of sale. It matters. Words matter. The interview I did with Phil W. Jones was insane. He is the author of Exactly What to Say. I think the book has sold over 2 million copies. There's also a realtor version.
So
he gave
good.
a huge gift to our community. He even gave some great scripts on how to call sales boomerang insights. So incredible interview. That video I showed you, just replay that in your mind, like literally going from taking the app with technology, that's called leverage. It's how you scale, delivering advice with technology. And then guys, one of the biggest things you can do in this market, use technology to help a consumer understand, hey, some affordability options. You could do a seller credit buy down or a 2-1 buy down. And then having the conversation that, you know what, some people think rates are going to be going to 4 someday. Now, always make sure when you help a family get into debt, it's sustainable debt. They're comfortable with the loan that they're getting. But to be able to vision cast it, when rates come down, I got you. And then, guys, if you're giving a fee worksheet, this was an innovation in 1999. This is no longer an innovation. And if you have a database and you don't know what's happening in your database, that's like 1999. In today's world, you should know what's happening in your database, and you should be able to not only anticipate that need, call on those customers. And guys, I saw a question about, TrustEngine. This is what TrustEngine does. We help you go from something is happening in my database, someone looks like they could be a cash out refinance. Or by the way, because rates are so high right now during spring home buying season, if you want an optimized spring home buying pre-approval, you need to be able to get rate watch alerts so that when rates do come down, you're targeting those and you're delivering, like, hey, I know that you got a loan at this, rates are this, and let's automate a mortgage coach total cost analysis, a rate and term refi, and show that family in a very automated way how they can improve their financial situation and be able to deliver a cash out scenario. So, Melissa, what are your thoughts on that for any leaders on here? Because I think that's something that everybody's not thinking. They're thinking short term, and they're not thinking long term. That, hey, we need to help them use technology in the short term, and then we need to use it in the long term. What are your thoughts?
That's why one key pillar of your marketing strategy has to be client retention. You worked so hard to get them in. You really, dialed in their experience and got them into that home of their dreams, but they shouldn't be done. And a lot of people don't build in that client piece. So what I love about the intelligence piece and really knowing your, all those critical activities and all those critical alerts is all about retaining that customer and being able to have. That's where technology is cool. Like, technology is giving you an awareness, and now you can kind of plug in and work the opportunity. And so we love the intelligence. We apply those into, all of them into our database. And of course, you can do it beyond that for more than just like your client base. But I always love it there because a lot of times we're working lead conversion, bringing in leads, lead conversion, and then closing the loan. But it's like, that's that other step that I was mentioning earlier, like what's the full life that you're available? And that post is so critical because that's where you're going to get repeats and referrals, and you're not always reinventing. And so the customer intelligence for monitoring your database is everything.
Yeah. And, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, the number one loan officer at Melissa's company, I had interviewed. I mean, we'll put a screenshot in this, and by the way, I got that right. Kyle was the number one loan officer last year, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when I interviewed him, it was, a big part of what he's doing is turning his database into dollars. He's taking his database very seriously. He's very strategic. He actually watched that interview I did with Phil and edited his scripts. He's talking about how he's using his database and how he's using the full TrustEngine suite to deliver value at the point of sale for not only consumers, buyers, but for realtors. So, again, a perfect example. And while I interviewed Kyle, like this was public for the mortgage coach community, I know that Melissa is interviewing him internally and shining a light on top producers doing top producer things. It's never been more important, guys. Like to continue to be loan officers that close loans on time, have whatever competitive rate is, because it's not gonna work when 63% of loans start with 2 or 3%, and AI is here and automation is here. You need to be an AI-driven mortgage professional, a data-driven mortgage professional.
I just wanted to call back one thing that you said about that was after you interviewed him, then he went back and watched another interview, and then he changed his own scripts. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, these are the all-in loan officers. He's already number one, but he's like, I have to fine tune my business. I have to change the way I'm connecting with today's consumer. I can't just be so set in my ways. So if our number ones and our top originators are doing this time in and time out, we need everyone else to do it. There's still a whole group and percentage of loan officers that have not moved into that space yet. They're not really all in with tech. They're not in with their brand. They're not in trying to create revenue out of their database. They're just kind of behind, and that's showing in the numbers. That's in part why the numbers are down.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you guys, he has a great script for how he gives that beautiful SimpleNexus link. And I do want to remind folks, if you want to have a strategy session with the TrustEngine team or the SimpleNexus team, we'll both have links. We'll put them in chat here in a few minutes. If you're watching this on a YouTube, we'll have links down below. When we do strategy sessions with folks, you come away like smarter. Like, you want to know how the top lenders in the country are WACD, doing what Amazon can do and can't do in lending. We will show you what that looks like. And for all you that use the SimpleNexus platform, we would love to show you how that integration works. So Ben, any thoughts, comments after that round?
Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind for me is when we talk about the database, the role that we can play at SimpleNexus is that, again, we are this instrument where we're this platform that exists on that person's phone, on that device. And we open up our backend APIs to connect to your CRM, to connect to, whatever other technology you want to go out and be on that person's phone, and so work with APM and say, okay, what kind of drip campaigns do you want to go directly to that person's pocket, right? Directly into their purse, and because their phone, they have with them all the time. And they're looking at those push notifications rather than reading emails in a lot of instances, right? And so leveraging the technology to help you, extract all the value and keep the connection from people in your database. It's so funny, we work with a lot of financial institutions, and they know that they are only capturing 5 to 20% of the loans of their current customers, right? They're like, this person banks at this bank and they're going somewhere else to get a mortgage. It sounds ridiculous, but why aren't they capturing a higher percent? But if we're an IMB or any kind of loan officer, are we asking ourselves that same question of saying, of the past 100 loans I've done, or 1,000 loans I've done, or whatever the number is, how many of those people are coming back to me, for their next loan, right? For the next purchase, for the next refi? Do I even know, right? Do I have a way to track that or not? Am I keeping in touch with them to see? And I met plenty of loan officers that basically all of their business comes from past clients. I mean, that's their whole strategy, just taking care of that client network that they have. And so, I think we will see more of that, of loan officers, of advisors asking themselves to say, am I doing enough? What is my strategy? How am I keeping in touch, with that customer that I've worked so hard, that costs so much money, right, to go acquire in the first place? What am I doing to nurture that, to make sure they come back to me?
So we're in the last 5 minutes. Melissa, final question. I mean, you partner with TrustEngine. You have both Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang. You partner with SimpleNexus. I mean, why do you partner with us?
Well, it always starts with a need. So you've got to have a value add tool. Second, really great partners. I can't reiterate that. Like, I would rather have fewer and have really great partners than more just trying to keep filling needs all over the place. Like, we really dial in and we keep our tech stack pretty tight, and we're not, we don't keep adding and adding and adding. Like, loan officers can add some add-on stuff if they want, but like, we keep our main core tech pretty small but meaningful, impactful. And so it always just, because once you have that partnership, I mean, we all know we're in the relationship business. So, creating those partnerships, those friendships, but then getting the value add out of the tools, everything. And so if I always say, like, people are always like wanting to show us more tech. We've got this. And I always come back to my partners first to find out if they have it or if they can do it first. is always kind of the strategy. And so, yeah, just keep innovating, stay connected with us, let us innovate together, help us when we, have needs for enhancements or training or, whatever it is. And that's just true partners. So yeah, we're fortunate to have good partners like you two.
Well, hey, here at TrustEngine, we're just super grateful for both of you, having the CEO of SimpleNexus and having the chief sales and marketing officer. Guys, appreciate the time you spent, the transparency that you've given the audience. Audience, if you got some value from this, let's use these little emojis, whatever's on your mind, let's get some action going. Give us a little hand here. And, I'm going to give you 2 minutes back in your day, because I feel like we've really added a lot of value. And thank you for everyone that tuned in and watched us. We appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.